1998, I was on assignment for Jazz Times at the Montreal Jazz Festival. And the two invitation series artists were David Murray and Randy Weston. The culmination of David Murray's evenings in the invitation series was a duo concert with Randy Weston. And the next evening after the duo with David Murray, Randy did the concert with that trio with McBride and Higgins that wound up on the Earth Birth record. And then he did several evenings of his various configurations, including an evening of the blues. My wife and I had been at the festival for about 10 days. We checked out and got ready to get our flight, but we had a few hours to kill. So we went to the festival headquarters hotel. They said, "Oh, you're just in time. You know, we're going to have a press conference with Randy Weston." And I had met him, but didn't really know him. And after the press conference, we went up to him to tell him how much we had enjoyed his evenings on the invitation series. And my wife said, "Yes, we really enjoyed it, but we're going to miss your final evening tonight." And he looked at her and he said, "Leave." He said, "You can't leave." He said, "We're going to Africa tonight." And that turned out to be the night that he was playing with the Gnawa master musicians of Morocco. So she changed our flight reservation and she said, "We're staying." And we went to his concert that evening and it was great. And our relationship just developed from there. I got a contract with what was then IAJE to do some web content for the NEA Jazz Masters program. And as I was developing the bibliography for these great masters, I was appalled at the fact that so few of them had book-length treatments of their lives. We had become very good friends with Randy's music director, who was his longtime music director, who still is. His saxophonist, TK Blue. Rather than go right to Randy, I just talked to TK and I said, "Listen, man," I said, "you think Randy would be interested in having his book written?" And he said, "Oh, man," he said, "he talks about that all the time." He said, "I'm sure he'd be open to it." So as soon as I had a chance to talk with Randy about it, he was all for it. So there we went. And that process really began in earnest in 2001. When you're writing a book and you tell your friends and colleagues, "Oh, I'm writing this book," when you let the cat out of the bag, every time you see them thereafter, it's, "How's the book? When's the book coming out? What's going on with the book?" So, I dealt with that for 9 years. But, as I would tell people, A, I'm still working for a living. B, he's still working for a living. So it's not as though we are totally concentrating on this book. So it's going to take time. And it did take time because it gave us an opportunity to really develop our relationship. And it gave me an opportunity to make some very important travels with him in developing the book project. So the 9 years was a good thing. Probably the most difficult part was transcribing the interviews. If you know anything about transcribing, it's difficult mechanically and it takes time and it's painstaking. Randy's a man who has great recall, and he's also a major, what we used to call back in the day, a major pack rat. He has saved everything. It wasn't that it was all meticulously organized, but he had everything. So throughout this process, during these 9 years, we would do these extended interviews, and he would often be able to dig up various materials that would illustrate certain points that he was making. And I found that it was helpful every time I did an interview with him to backtrack a bit, because there was always a certain broadening of his story throughout our interview process. Like, he would go down different avenues, and it never failed that every time we did an interview, he would take me down a different avenue than we had traveled before, and it would open up new elements. He's gotten all kinds of accolades and awards that I think stem from this book putting his life out there to more people than currently knew about it. And that's been a beautiful thing. And so it's all good. But you don't look at this as being a money-making process.